जंग ज़दा इलाकों या कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जोन्स में रेप या जना बिलजबर का मौजू एक हसास मौजू है। किसी भी जंग में औरतें और बच्चे सबसे ज्यादा गैर महफूज तस्वुर किए जाते हैं। दुश्मन इसी कमजोरी को हरीफ को शिकस्त देने के लिए बतौर हरबा इस्तेमाल करता है। 1991 में करंट पशपुरा के 2 गांवों में भारतीय फौज ने बर्बरियत की जो तारीख रकम की, वो इंसानियत कभी नहीं भुला सकती। इस मुकदमे को फिर से उठाया जा रहा है, फिर आवाज बुलंद हो रही है। कश्मीर और कश्मीर से बाहर समाजी और इंसानी हुकूक के कारकुन इंसाफ के लिए जंग लड़ रहे हैं। इसी सिलसिले में इस्लामाबाद में यूथ फोरम फॉर कश्मीर के ज़ेरे एहतमाम एक अहम सेमिनार मुनक्किद किया गया। इस सेमिनार में सहाफियों, इंसानी हुकूक के नुमाइंदों, कश्मीर असम्बली के मेंबरान, समाजी कारकुनों ने शिरकत की और दुनिया भर में जंग ज़दा इलाकों में रेप के मौजू पर खुलकर इज़हार ख्याल किया।
To your back, where you're sitting right now, to your back, we have the Afghanistan-Pakistan border region. A region that saw a decisive war between communism and the free world. To your right is Kashmir, the oldest pending conflict on the agenda of the UN Security Council and the main source of tension in a region extending from South Asia to Central Asia. Now, rape in conflict zones is never easy to discuss. And you must have noticed that it's not very often that you hear about events or talks being held in Pakistan discussing this issue, which is, again, as I said, is very surprising because we are in one of those hot zones in the world that have seen several conflicts in the past 4 decades, both on our borders and within our borders, along the Pak-Afghan border, along the Kashmir border, and also in Sawat. Let's not forget, in Sawat we had a conflict. It was a short-lived conflict. It was well managed by the state, comparatively well managed. The terror groups or the extremist groups that took over were evicted. But there was a huge impact on the women population in Sawat. And that is one thing that was not really discussed a lot in our media for various reasons. So basically, rape in conflict zones is never easy to discuss. You risk ruffling many feathers, and there's always the chance that this serious humanitarian issue is politicized. And this is a big, huge problem. When you're discussing rape in conflict zones, you have people who are opposed to a public discussion of this matter because it is often politicized and used for point scoring, and sometimes people in places of authority feel that these type of issues are often used as pressure points or pressure tactics against their authority, whereas people working on these issues are basically working on them to solve a problem, to help the victims, the women who were involved, or to prosecute the perpetrators. Often these things are put to the background and the issue of politicization comes to the front. So this is a key issue that we face when we discuss this. I feel that activists and experts should first focus on offering remedies instead of blaming and shaming governments. I mean, this is my personal opinion, that as activists and as people working on this, we should focus on the humanitarian aspect of this issue.
As you know, the rape in conflict, in war, in conflict zone is a global issue. It's not specifically that if a war or conflict happens in a Christian world or in a Muslim world, so if it happens in Christian world, it doesn't happen, or if it happens in Muslim world, war is not, rape is not used as a war, sort of as a war strategy. Whether the conflict was in Africa or Asia or Middle East or South Asia, we have seen that the rape, sexualized violence and rape is used as a war strategy. It's more kind of a shame associated if men come forward and say we have been also raped, but we know for sure, even in in former Yugoslavia, if you remember the war in civil war 1995 in Bosnia, where there's a lot of women, although I think the figure varies from 20,000 to 60,000 women who were raped, and mostly it was Muslim women. There were a lot of Muslim men were also raped, but they are not coming forward to talk about that. So we know that it takes place.
कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जोन में रेप एक खास माइंडसेट का तर्जुमान है। ये माइंडसेट या सोच अमन के दिनों में फिरोग पा रही होती है। हमारी पहली तरजीह इसी सोच को बदलना है, लेकिन ये सोच है क्या?
In peace times, I think there's a whole mindset, the patriarchal mindset, where women are essentially seen as a sexual object, you know. Women are also seen as a property of men. You know, this whole concept of women as property, and they belong to men. So women are essentially seen as the reproducer of their own communities, you know. The concept of honor and izzat of a man is basically resides in women's bodies, you know. If anything, I mean, if the woman has done, you know, basically, if the woman has done something, if the men feel that their honor is being violated, you know. So I think that is the patriarchal mindset, where women are not seen as independent human beings, but seen, you know, in relation to men, you know. They exist in relation to men, you know. They are their property, they're their honor, they're their izzat. So that mindset, you know, when there is a conflict, so that mind extended into battlegrounds, battlefield as well, you know. Because I was recently in Bosnia, you know, and I was and I was reading some of the testimonies of women, whereby they said when the Serbian soldiers were raping Muslim women, they were saying, you know, we'll change your, next generations.
Rape committed during war is basically actually terrifying population. The basic intention was to separate families, destroy communities, in some instance to change the whole ethnic makeup of next generation. We know for centuries rape has been used as war of weapon. If I say it is the most brutal weapon, in order to exercise power, domains over women, and undermine the social fabric of the society.
How we take women in our lives and what is the status of women in our lives. We normally don't give attention to their decisions. We try to negate their whatever they are saying. We normally, if you allow me to give you some examples in Urdu, कि औरत की अकल जो है वो घुटनों में होती है, औरत तो ये नहीं कर सकती, औरत वो नहीं कर सकती. It means that we are always tagging women.
This whole notion of, you know, if somebody raped them, that it's not like the kind of, you know, language we use even normally when there is a rape, कि इज्जत लुट गई. I mean, what is this language, you know? How could anybody can steal somebody's izzat, you know? And the other thing is that it's not about, you know, if somebody is the criminal whose izzat should be at stake, not the victim. Huh? So, and also it's not like as women's, you know, the whole worth lies in her sexuality, in her, you know. So if you look at we continue to use that language in our media, in our, you know, whereby you basically depossess again the victim by saying, you know, like वो बेइज्जत हो गई, उसकी इज्जत लुट गई, and things like that.
पूरी दुनिया में जंग ज़दा इलाकों में औरतों और बच्चों के साथ जो कुछ हुआ वो इंसानियत का सर शर्म से झुकाने के लिए काफी है. सिर्फ गुज़श्ता 30 साल की शुमारियात ही आंखें खोलने के लिए काफी हैं.
Rwanda, between 1 lakh to 2 lakh women were raped during the 3 months of genocide in 1994. More than 60,000 women were raped during civil war in Sierra Leone in 1991 to 2002. Over 14,000 in Libya in 1989 to 2003, up to 60,000 in former Yugoslavia in 1992 and 1995, and at least 2 lakh in the Democratic Republic of Congo since 1998.
If you look at the definition back in 99 protocol, it says, you know, I just read that for you because that same mindset, you know, because how they were defining rape, they were saying that it was, you know, it is merely a crime against honor, dignity, or property rights of a male relatives, you know. So till 1977, the protocol which was introduced to the Geneva Convention is defining, you know, the women rape as a violation of men, you know, because their honor has been, you know, violated, and women as their property has been, you know, violated. So it is all about men, not about women.
कश्मीर में भारतीय फौज के लिए सबसे आसान टारगेट कश्मीरी खवातीन और बच्चे रहे हैं। कश्मीरी खवातीन और बच्चों पर जुल्म के पहाड़ टूटे, रेप से पैलेट गन्स तक जुल्म की दास्तानें हर गली में बिखरी हुई हैं।
In this struggle of freedom, women were the most soft target by Indian brutality and torture. Women lost their loved ones, sons, husbands, and become the physical torture of Indian brutality. The most terrible incident was the incident of Kunan Poshpura, as already Ahmed Quraishi Sahab described. February 1991, when group of Indian officers and soldiers entered two villages of Kashmir called Kunan and Poshpura. Initially their intention was basically to identify militants, but it was not their actual intention. Men were separated from their women, they kept outside of the houses, and it is reported that 53 women were raped at that dreadful night. Since then, no justice was done with the victims. Indian Army, government, and puppet regime of Kashmir, occupied Kashmir, they try to hide the actual situation from the world.
But before we move forward, I would like to show you something for a few minutes. It's a small, short film. I think it's about 2.5, 3 minutes. Okay, can we turn off the lights and can we watch this?
It's a cold February night, and Kashmir is simmering with an armed rebellion against the Indian rule. With the rebellion have come soldiers, and with them the brutalities. You are about to know how to win a war against a rebellious population without firing a single bullet.
That was cry. I said, Nigel is going to understand because good. I can't cry as well. You guys are like, oh, Father, God.
The story of the intervening night, according to the police documents, begins with the planning of cordon and search operation in the army headquarters of 4 Rajputana Rifles, 68 Mountain Brigade at Trigam. Army gets clearance for the operation and briefs troops who are to be deployed at the camp.
In a society such as this, rape is not normally talked about. Yet in Kunan Poshpura, there is bitterness and sadness. Lives have changed, relationships shattered.
Army battalion leaves the camp at 9 p.m. in their vehicles. The roads were covered by snow and it was a bright moonlight night. It took the army 1 hour to reach the outskirts and a little longer to reach the interiors of the village. All entry and exit points are blocked and 3 interrogation centers are established in houses and barns in the village. Twin villages of Kunan and Poshpura are besieged. Army men start storming into houses at around 11 p.m. They broke doors and windows and entered into homes. They did not make any announcements or look for militants. Army men in search parties of 5 to 10 started assaulting the men, dragging them out of homes. All men from the twin villages were collected. Outside the 3 interrogation centers, they were made to sit barefoot in the snow, while many were taken by the army men inside the interrogation centers and tortured. While the men were separated from the women and tortured, groups of soldiers barged into homes. They gang raped the women of the village, sometimes raping the same woman twice. From a 13-year-old girl to 17-year-old woman, none was spared. Rape is not an adequate word to describe what was done that night by the soldiers. It was not rape, it was war. Women were caught by a minimum of 5 to 6 army men as their husbands, fathers, sons were forcefully separated from them.
And they said that the men were all drunk and that the women were raped repeatedly by these men.
تقريبا 10 ليرات كيس راح تستفيد جهبر قاسن
أتمرد تمديد ما أستحق تمرد ديس أستحق ماذا مهم ميتو وقت ميلا بونيا أتا بديس دوينس بواس إيه كيف نلوم
سويجن كهنا باجن تا كه بابا جي وتسوي كريادا وقت استترويك يلا غيارمي.
Pushed to the walls, they shouted and screamed for help, for mercy. Their screams were not answered. Guns were pointed at their chests and mouths. Army men were drunk and were drinking during the operation as well.
أنا زعلان بس. مش برا ظلم قدام سنة.